So here I jumped ahead a little bit to show you how I could maybe finish the tip part. So you see I have kind of like one rail, another rail, and a patch surface in between. I have also a rail there. For example, those are all built by those curves I created. And the idea I took was simply I have here individual arcs because I started to split those surfaces. Same, for example, I have there. Now maybe my idea was, well, if I have that, then shouldn't I be able to also, from this line to this line, put in a blend curve, from here to here, put in a blend curve. So for example, let's do that for a moment. I'm going to select all those curves and actually hide them, visible, and maybe let's make a new layer. So I go ahead again, curve, snap, snap, degree 5, spacebar, next curve, snap, snap, degree 5, spacebar, and then I go to align. Hold on, here, align G2, there, 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 and there. Okay. Let's maybe take a look at our image because stuff doesn't look good at all. So let's see if maybe we can maybe work with those handles a little bit and push that shape out. So I just do this a little bit quick. So you see the basic idea. And then, for example, now you see I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So I could use a rail 2, 2, and here to here, spacebar U and U. There's my surface. And then, for example, Gen 1 and Gen 2. Well, I clicked on those curves, not on the surface edge, so I can't really actually right now tell it to be tangent to the surface. Okay, so, and then, for example, to go to the front part, I, for example, created myself a circle, maybe in this view. Let's double click it, turn this one off to segments. Oh, I could also one segment 180 will be fine. This is also a feature of Auto Studio 2015. If you are in Automotive 2014, you do not have the segment option. So, but then you only, if you want to have half an arc, simply type in 180. That's the same. Click go, and there's my arc. I would like to rotate that arc along the y-axis, 0 minus 90. Okay, 0 minus 90. There. I have to scale this one. Let's go maybe to the side view. I'm going to turn on my surface so I can use it quickly as a reference, so you see what I'm actually doing here. And scale. Let's go to local. So Z. See, then I started moving this one slightly in position and rotate a little bit more. And scale, and then, for example, those CVs. Let's go local move. That is the Z-axis there. Also, those two here. There, maybe a little bit more like this. Let's move this one. Whoops. Let's move this one up along the Z-axis. So there. and there, and there. So then I started to get kind of like this arc, and currently my shape doesn't match perfectly yet because I'm using actually a different degree. Because what at one step before I did that, actually, I went ahead and then went to detach, alt click onto this curve. There's the midpoint, spacebar. You see now I have two arcs. And then, for example, I was able to select those CVs, move along the z-axis, select the next. You see I have actually more points I can work with. For example, and then the next step, basically what I did was again the same. You see now I have way more control over those points. Push those down, down, and I try to sculpt a nice transition. And then to get kind of like this line, later what I simply did was I put in a simple degree 2 line. Actually, no, maybe a simple degree 3, 2 points, except, and then align tangent, this one to there, this one to there. Whoops. No. This one to there. Okay. So in case I arc this one a little bit more, and this one would blend perfectly in between. So you see now that's basically the way how I was starting to build my outline. And I thought actually this could maybe work, but it was simply a little bit too complicated. And I'm just in a moment going to explain to you why. So maybe here we go with a G2 to this transition there. And then I could do the next from here to there. Maybe another degree 4. Okay, yep. And then align this one to maybe this. And then I have to just try to de-stress this a little bit, and I restart already starting to see the problem. Where this arc is best maybe should have been rather here. So along this axis, so that the curves will flow in better, because you see these lines are nearly, if I zoom in, they're nearly parallel. It's not really ideal. So those tight corners are terrible. Okay, I played around with this a little bit, and then at one point decided this is all a waste of time, because we could maybe fix this one differently. One way, I go back and readjust my complete layout, push this one further to there, but that's not really what I want, or I could do, but I'm too lazy to do that right now. I simply will take this surface as it is and, for example, export it. So I'm going to export active as obj unit meter, tessellation maybe 0.0, 0.1 maybe, yeah, 0.1, and click save, and then go to Marvin's folder, and for example say this one now is alias study, and then I do not go into Fusion. I actually go first into Blender. It's a little bit quicker here, the way how it's set up. So let's set the world back to metric. This is a new document, import wavefront, and let's go to desktop, Marvin alias study, import. Let's go to side view, and there, for example, is the model. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is actually the following. I'm going to create simply in Blender a sub-D surface that is not getting close to those parts, but describes kind of like most of the top surface. So for example, I want something to include just this area, and then we bring it into T-spline, generate the surface, and then we patch in the missing blend. Okay, so let's give that actually a try. So I'm going to delete my grease pencil sketch, Shift A, new plane, or you go to add plane. This is way too big. Hold on 1 second. What's the size of this one? I want to double check. So this is 1385 high. Let's go back to alias and let's go to distance, U to U. Yeah, okay. So the scale is correct. This is good. Where's our plane? This plane I go into edit mode, press S, scale it down more, press R, Y in my case, and then 90. So you see I just rotated it flat. Okay, good. Now I can move this whole object in object mode to here, scale it a little bit more with S, and then in edit mode go to CV, and then for example try to see where do I maybe need my base, maybe here. Okay, and now I need a subdivision here, for example, to push this out and to pull this one inwards, and I want a small part of this arc be built. So with Control R, you see when I go into an edge and I'm in edit mode, one movement on your mouse wheel, you can change the subdivision level or the cut level. So I make 2 cuts. Press 0 and enter so they don't slide. Just let me show you what sliding means. You see I can slide them. That's what I want. So 0. And then this part I'm actually going to move maybe to here, to there. So you see now there I can preview kind of like the angle, so those are good. Here maybe from this line to there, this is a little bit too tight. So I'm going to de-stress this a little bit. Okay. Let's maybe move this one onto a second layer. And for the sake of visualization, I'm going to give this one a small color so I can see what I'm doing. So A, W, and Control N. Never mind. Flip normals there. Okay, good. So now there I can see the structure a little bit more. There, for example, you can see the polygons which were created. Actually, at this moment, this might be a good situation to explain why, for example, all this stuff is so important. So you see, this is a really coarse mesh. If you send this one to a CNC, what the CNC is doing is taking the alias surface and then is creating an incredibly fine polygon mesh, which then can later, for example, be used for cutting or something. Or I mean, that's the same how the 3D printer also works. And yeah, so when there are problems with the mesh, the machine will be unhappy, which is why you want to have really nice and perfect transitions, because then the mesh will have the transitions as well. So it's shift click this one, click on my object, there it is, so it's inside, and I have to extrude it. So I go into edit mode, select everything, press E, escape, and move this one out. Maybe till there for the moment. And then I go back and select actually those edges only. And say X edges, delete. So you see, this is what I'm left with. So I have one opening, second and third opening. Now the next step, I'm gonna add a sub D modifier just to smooth it out a little bit. Control N, spacebar, shade smooth. Shift click our main object, and then let's compare if we maybe matched our design. We do not match our design yet, because you can see here this one is too big. But before I continue, I'm going to straighten some edges. So I select this shell, Alt click onto this edge, Shift Alt, left mouse button I'm pressing, Shift Alt, or Shift and then left mouse button onto each edge. And those edges I would like to crease. So here's a crease function in the property panels inside transform. You see this pushes it down. So I sharpened the corners. So now along this axis I can push those in, and maybe I should do this a little bit here. For example, from this view, this seems to be okay. Maybe here this one I push out a little bit. There maybe it's a little bit too far out. So I try, as you can see, match up those corner points. Now down here this is kind of flat, so I have to add another loop cut there at the center, and then this point, for example, I arc. And then bring this point, for example, down, and I try to line up those endpoints with the mesh. So I can use the mesh a little bit as a reference for how I want to bend everything here. Okay. Maybe those I move up a little bit. Maybe I move it a little bit inwards. So you see this way I'm changing actually the curvature. No, no, actually do not do that, because then it changes the tangencies. You see this started to break. So maybe there actually in this case I'm going to add a loop cut, maybe there, and then push this one in. So this way you see I stabilize this lower part. See the same thing again, what I do in Alias, I also work this way with polygons and sub-D modeling, because essentially this later will be a NURB surface out of 1, 2, 3, 4 faces. Okay, I'm actually getting close. Maybe this here, I don't really like how this looks. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do the following. I'm adding a new plane, Shift, press Tab, press S, scale it down, press Tab, so I'm in object mode. And then this part I insert and rotate. Okay, now I make it a little bit bigger. And maybe there, okay. Then one more time, Shift D, and then I press rotate, move it, rotate, G, click, rotate. And the main reason for that was simply I can go to my transform, set this one to local, and you see the local direction. I can actually save this one in Blender. So I go to local, to transform orientation, select the local vector and say plus. And now you see here we have plane 2. And this one, for example, I call vector right. And let's select this one, local plus, there's the next one, and maybe vector left. Okay, perfect. Those two planes, I can maybe move on to a different layer so I don't see them all the time. And then I go to here, go to edit modes, select points, select all those points, and I forgot one step. Go to here in object mode. I want to select this plane, right vector, and then I press Shift S and say snap cursor to the selected. So I'm moving my scale pivot point to this plane, because now in edit mode I go to scale, or I could press S, Z, and Z again. You see now this is the local direction, and press 0 and they all snap to that part. They're all aligned now. Go to here, this plane, the correct vector, Shift S, cursor to selected, go now to my object, go to edit mode, select only the needed points, S, Z for global, Z again for local, 0, enter, and let's compare. So this is still a pretty close match. I could, for example, now start sculpting. So here I simply switch between now the right one. Let's go only to move. And for example, here, maybe I push this one in a little bit more. And maybe a little bit out if I want to, and in. And for example, here, now I have to go to the other vector. And I notice actually one thing. Those, to be honest, I do not want to push them out too much, because then I maybe run into the same problem as well. So SX0, I keep them at the same plane, push them down a little bit. Okay, so I'm missing a little bit the curvature of my original alias model, but that's fine, because that surface was simply not really very good anyway. And then here, maybe those points, I can push them out a little bit. So seen, well, maybe from this view it's easier to take a look at. I have a slight rotation there, so like it domes a little bit. Okay, let's see if maybe I could dense out this mesh a little bit. Maybe here, let's de-stress this a little bit. And I'm just spreading out those points a little bit more. This one maybe I push in a little bit more. Okay, so at this point I leave the shell because I don't want to spend more time. I want to make sure, or I want to test if this one even is going to work. So with this object and only this one selected, I can go to File, Export, OBJ, selected, do not use modifier, go to Marvin, and for example, Y shape, study, and go to Fusion. And here's the alias model I imported. Now I'm going to turn on the, not yet the design history, because I would like to select those faces and unstitch them. And then I select them and stitch them together into one group. Okay, and then those I stitch together into one group. Okay, so you see I separated that one part. Now I'm going to make a quick test here to see if this works. Insert the mesh. So here's the Y study, open, insert as meters. Okay, so it's not positioned correctly. It's a little bit off, not a big deal. We can easily reposition that one as we need. So now let's go to convert this one into a T-spline surface there, and then I have to do some creasing again. And in T-spline to crease, I can click on edges or I can click on corner points. It's pretty much the same what I did in Blender. T-spline you only can crease or uncrease. In Blender you can have a weight at the moment. And now I would like to position this one, of course, so I can click this object, right click, move, and for example move it to somewhere there. And now this is not centered, so you see there this is off. So what I do instead is actually I go to move point to point and say move from this point to this point. Kaboom, there it is. Okay. Also in here, just for the sake of demonstration, this is still modeling like in Blender. It's exactly the same way. I can push and pull those points, adjust them even more if I want to, because essentially it's a polygonal mesh just with that T-spline ability. Okay, so now I'm going to actually turn on the design history. So stage 2, capture design history, and let's go to bodies, hide this one, and you see here is actually my T-spline object, which now, as you can see, is a NURB surface. So the nice thing about this idea is I can now try to see if I can blend between them. Make a loft, and then turn off chain and say you, to you, and you. And maybe profile 2 is the last one, so this one we set to tangent. Now we click on profile 1 and say tangent. Okay. One more time. Turn off chain select 1, 1, and 1 and 1. Tangent, profile 1, tangent. Oh, there was a problem. Okay. Let's go back to profile 2. Okay. Let's see, you to you. Let's check if it works this way. Okay, that works. One more time, you, and then Apple click this one. And great, Fusion crashed. So I'm going to save for the moment the screen recording, rebuild this one, and then I will be back. So here I'm back, and let's try this one again. But I will try actually in this case, just make those blends for the outside, and I make them separately. Okay, and I know this is not good, but I want to check something first. And you will see just in a moment what I'm looking for. So in tangent, profile 1 and tangent. Okay, good. So how does this actually look? Are these curves actually, is my T-spline built in a way so that the blend surface can create nice transitions? And currently it somewhat looks that way. So let's stitch this one together. Didn't I say stitch? Okay. Here, stitch. Okay, and something odd happened here. Oh, where's this patch tool coming from? Delete this patch. Stitch. There. That's what I want. Okay, let's flip the direction. Flip normal. Can't do it here right now. Okay, never mind. And maybe turn on the zebra. Let's take a look. Yeah. Okay. I would like to see the curvature comb here together. See, there we have a problem. But that's fine because we made those transitions just with G2, G1, not G2. So let's edit and maybe here profile 1 smooth and this one smooth. Okay, let's take a look. See, there it starts. So there's some wobbling going on. You can see that how this is an S shape. So this is not really ideal. So let's go back maybe then to this one and edit. And let's make this one smooth. There we saw a bigger change in the surface. Okay. And let's go back. Zup, zup, zup. Yeah. Here we have also an S shape. So I guess the problem is simply the way how my T-spline surface here right now is built. Makes it a little bit tricky for the software to make good transitions. So what I can do now is go back to edit, for example, my T-spline object. So you see, I just went to here, right click, edit, and then I went into the edit mode. And then here, I'm currently, or I can now actually manipulate my T-spline object. So here's this one edge. And maybe let's see what happens if, for example, this one, I move it a millimeter in. Okay, let's leave this one. So this is linear and then, I would have assumed it might have been able to work better. Okay, let's go back to edit and maybe in this case select this edge and reorient maybe this way. I'm going to rotate this a little bit. So I'm rotating my widget. Okay, and then I move this one maybe a little bit, not so much, maybe 0.1. Okay, let's see. Same problem. Maybe actually, let's see if we can move this one. Maybe what happens if we push this one inwards. 2.5. Okay, and finish form. See now, there's no inflection anymore. It didn't really change much. So maybe we have to do this one more aggressive step. So maybe push it to there and see. This is not really properly breaking it. Yeah. So okay, but you start seeing like we need to find a position where actually kind of like this one is somewhere in between. Maybe there. Let's see. Yeah, see there, I'm getting closer. Okay, see a little bit of fine tuning. Okay, so this was actually good to try to look at. Uh, so I can delete actually this and this. I don't need it anymore. And in this case now I'm going to select all those, delete them, press del in the timeline. And what's Fusion going? Please don't tell me you're crashing again. I have the suspicion that's going to happen. So I'm going to save and then we'll be back. By the way, in case Fusion crashes, we'll pay attention on the Mac side. It's set the notification. I think on the Windows side, it's notification down there. There are crash reports, and actually there's a file recovery. So let's see maybe what the autosave did. Let's click open and wow, perfect. So we're back here. So that's good. At least not too much work lost. So then, for example, go to here. And now let's try the other direction out. Because also there I would like to see how this actually looks. So smooth and smooth. Okay. See, there already we see major problem. I can already see that this is terrible the way how it looks. So I have to go in later and adjust some of those points. But how does this direction look like? Yeah, so you see I don't really have enough geometry points that define this arc, and if I zoom in more you even see this looks kind of terrible. So I have to go back to my T-spline object and then see what I have there. If maybe with those points I can maybe sculpt this a little bit more roundish. Tool boundary problem. Yeah, so no, that was not good. So undo. And maybe actually, what about this edge and I bring it over a little bit, maybe to there. Okay, let's delete that one and let's see how it goes from there to there. Yeah. Okay, I guess what I simply need is I need more stuff to flow. I don't really have enough points to arc this nicely in my T-spline object. So let's go back to the TS. And for example, here we could say insert edge. What should we do? Insert edge specific. Yeah. Let's try the one. Okay. There added a point and then those edges, for example. Don't select the face. See, this got a little bit linear. I can actually now move. And you see now I have more capability to sculpt this actually a little bit. This edge here right now, I would like to slide a little bit to the right. So we go to, what was it? Slide edge there and then move it over. So in Blender would be pressing GG to slide it there. Maybe a little bit more. Oh, I didn't press OK, I guess. No, I did press OK. what's going on? Slide edge. There, okay. So, and then those edges, for example, I push inwards a little bit, so I start arcing this one more. Okay, and okay, let's see how this one looks. Yeah, this is all fine that they don't work. So let's delete them. Delete there. Okay, and then let's go back to patch and not patch, loft, and see how we can make it transition right now. Smooth, and this one also smooth. You see it's at least along here starts looking a little bit better. A little bit, but not really much. So, so what I'm going to do, and you see also I have some really terrible rippling effects there. So let's go back to here and edit the mesh a little bit more. So if I want this one to flow kind of like this way, then maybe this edge I simply have to move a little bit this way. Okay, so I try to project this curve continuing through this point and then into this curve. Still not really fantastic. Okay, let's give this one more try. Actually, here you can actually select a T-spline object, go to display, and say display mode and boxy, because currently right now I just would like to take a look at the way how those points look like. Sometimes the screen refresh is also quicker this way. So I'm going to space those out. Whoops. Evenly actually. I only want to select T-spline vertices. There. And move. Oh. Why I'm not able to select any vertices. Oh, great. I can't run the selection through, so okay, let's do it simply this way, there and there. Okay, and there, and move. Or maybe I selected them, they weren't simply displayed. No, they weren't really selected. Okay. There, and then sculpt it maybe this way a little bit. This point here, I'm pushing back, trying to de-stress this a little bit. And there, maybe this way. Okay. Good. Let's actually take a look. Finish form. Shade it. Yeah. So at this point, now let's save. Actually, I'm going to select, yeah, save just in case. Select all here, delete. And now I'm going to the loft, chain select and say edge and edge, loft to edge and edge. And I'm just setting everything only to tangent because I built at the beginning everything with tangency only. And there you see we start actually getting the shape we were looking for. There. Okay. Now actually, now I have everything stitched together, and maybe we can try to thicken this one to give it a thickness. So let's see. And maybe, I don't know, maybe 2 millimeters. Let's see if this works. It does. Perfect. So I grew actually the surface by 2 millimeters. So you see actually we added the thickness this way. What happens if actually we do the reverse? So we tell it -2 millimeters. This is a very organic shape, so this command could work, or no, see here it doesn't. So 1 millimeter. Yeah, 1 millimeter doesn't also work. And I think Fusion is hanging itself up right now. No, there it was still working, so shouldn't be so quick to judge. So in this case, actually, if I want to make a quick shell to be able to print, and I can be okay with 2 millimeters or 4 millimeter around the whole diameter, more thickness, then I can simply grow to the outside. But I think now Fusion actually really hang up. No, it's still working. So there, oof, 2 millimeters. There, okay, good. And as I said, this is actually pretty complex math. To expand it was very easy. It just needed to take all those convex shapes and make them bigger. To shrink, it needed to shrink and then kind of like deal with the way how the surfaces were starting to intersect, which why that one was a lot harder to do. Okay, so if I want to, I could, for example, mirror the whole part along this plane. And also this takes a little bit now. So you see, looks like a very simple thing, but math-wise, the program has to crunch a lot. That's, for example, why in Alias, and sometimes you simply delete the construction history and continue working with baked surfaces because it's faster. But since we're in the stage of getting this one ready to print, we don't necessarily want to stop that all the time. Okay, now this is a pretty big opening, and I realized in this situation this was kind of silly. So what I'm going to do is the following. I want to cap this area. And can I, for example, patch maybe this area together? So those lines, will that work? Patch, cap. Yeah, no, doesn't really work. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to draw a sketch on this plane, and I draw just a line there. Okay, escape. And then I say include into this sketch, please, this geometry. You see, there's my sketch, and I have those lines. Now I can snap actually to these lines. So I could go to move here and say move this point to this point, and then this point to this point. Okay, but I just meant this point to there. There. Okay. Finish sketch. And you see this way we create a two-dimensional sketch, and then we turn it into a 3D sketch and line those points up, because now I could go ahead and say patch just this stuff. Okay, so you see it's flat. You can select everything, stitch. Now I have the front part capped, for example. At this point, maybe I could give this one an edge rounding. Maybe 2 millimeter. Oh, that's way too big. 0.1. Yeah, okay. And then we go back to thicken this one, of course, outside 2 millimeters. And cancel, because that fillet is growing way too big. So I delete it and I just fillet that one. I'm going to fillet it afterwards. Because I only need the fillet to be newly visible on the outside, so the A surface, the inside, the B surface, I don't really care about, because this is just technical stuff. So then there, here, 0.5 millimeter, just break that edge. Okay, there we are. And now I can continue putting in my blade, putting in the rib construction, etc. And then we can send it to the printer. Now I would actually like to show you an alternative way, because this was an interesting approach, but it didn't really work the way how I want to. Also, at this point, maybe you might ask yourself or me, well, which way is the best, or the most popular question, which one is the easiest one? Well, there is no easy one. Sculpting this stuff in Blender at once is actually pretty easy, that's true, but then making really look nice and smooth and good is a lot of work. So the initial easy effect later dissolves into thin air. Alias at the beginning is maybe a little bit more like hardened steel to chew on, but later, as you can see, with a little bit of trickery and specifically analyzing your design and refining it, you get really good results. The thing is, even with me, very often when I get a project, I maybe have a rough idea, and then I have to make some test builds to see how maybe I could best build it. And sometimes through building it, I start to discover and understand the design better, and then I can make a perfect model. So when, for example, on the internet you see a finished design and it looks all awesome, think about like classical art. They just didn't go and start painting. They were thinking about it, they were planning it, they were making sketches, and then they were started painting. Okay, so lots of words. Let's get ready. What I would like to show you is actually an interesting feature of the T-Spline engine. So I go into Edit. You see I deleted everything before. And this part here I'm going to delete, and this one here maybe I'm going to clean up a little bit there, and maybe this, no. Now I'm doing all the alias shortcuts. Of course, they don't work. Let's move this one in there. Okay, so what we're going to do is actually double click this ring, you see, and then we click on edit form. I can move this one. But what I'm going to do is I press and hold my Alt key and then drag a new extrusion out. Look at this there. And then we can rotate it. And for example, scale it a little bit. And kind of like try to make it match. Okay. So why did I do this? Check this one out. With this one still selected, I can go to modify match, and T-Spline has an ability, and that's really the awesome part of T-Spline. It's modeling like with polygons like in Blender, but on steroids, because what Blender cannot do, T-Spline can do. T-Spline is basically like a perfectly smooth representation of a polygon mesh, and we can match this perfectly smooth surface to a NURB surface. Let's match. So match, chain select, no, and let's say one, and Alt click, Apple click this one. So you see it matched actually my points. Now we have maybe some fitting. Do we go uniform? Do we go curvature? So you see with curvature, it moves those points more. So the amount of polygons I have for my T-spline body at this end, the CVs are as long moved till, for example, it fits the body more. So that's one of the really awesome parts of TS. Maybe we can do a refinement. I don't know, maybe, and then set this one maybe to, I don't know, let's see, tangent. That's going to take a moment to calculate. Probably it's not going to work. Oh, actually a little bit. So there, it refined the mesh a little bit more, and getting some bad results. Maybe let's go back to uniform. And it's kind of silly to try to make this tangent when basically the mesh I push towards is not even really allowing that. So no refinement. Or hold on. Should I keep refinement? No, not yet. I will do that later. Okay. So let's do the same actually also on the lower part. So double click, Alt click and drag this one down. I would like to refine my rotation widget. Click and then rotate this one maybe so I feel like I have the same direction as my yellow line, and then I can scale everything, move this one maybe to there. Okay, and then we do the same with this one still selected, match, curvature, and then the target, no chaining, you. And I have to zoom in a little bit more. Apple left click there. What does actually flip direction do? Well, it flips. Okay. Okay. Let's finish the form and let's take a look first what we have. I think pretty much have a positional snap. So if we give this object actually an appearance also with the metallic stuff, at least we don't have bad seams, but we really have terrible transitions. Not a big deal because we go back into here. And this maybe now sounds familiar, like when you had me in Blender and I was preaching about model carefully, watch your CVs, have nice and smooth grids. They're key. Same here. So now I have to see maybe what I can do with moving those control points. And now with alias, we started realizing that it's pretty much the same deal also with alias. That's the reason why I also like to use those programs or technologies in conjunction, because there's a lot of similarity between them. And I try kind of, as you can see here right now, move and map those in a way so I get maybe kind of like the look I'm shooting for. Okay. And maybe those a little bit higher. So it goes this way. Let's see. Yeah. So by hand, I'm actually sculpting the shape. Now this looks still kind of wobbly. So for example, here, this is a good test piece to show you that with in alias I would draw a line and line, make it a degree 5, and then align G2 to this and this edge, and zip, I have a really perfect and smooth curve. Here with TS, it's a little bit of trial and error, and I have to move these points because the align math function is doing that for me, and now I have to use my artistic ability and my keen eye to try to see those transitions and predict how the mesh will look when I push and pull it in a certain way. So let's maybe look actually from here, because I noticed that this one maybe is a little bit too high. You see how it comes down, comes up, and comes down. And that's terrible. So let's go back maybe to the display modes, like in Blender, turn on the raw polygons so I can see maybe what's going on there. And rotate my view a little bit. So, okay. So maybe this one. Move down a little bit and I try to see these lines, how they flow. And turn the snap grid off for the moment. Okay. Well, let's set this one maybe back to smooth. Okay. So at this point I have two options. I could punch in another loop cut and then actually try to see if the match will work better. Or I could also cut a big chunk out, because with my surfaces, you see now actually that I managed the following: one patch, one patch, one patch, one patch. And before I had two patches, and then I had three patches. And even more annoying, this was an arc, and the loft surfaces should somehow blend to this arc, into this surface, to this arc, into this surface, and also blend into this surface along a point, which is pretty much pointless or impossible. If you pay attention to the highlights, they are already fantastic actually on my Y shape. Super nice. So my matching there doesn't really look good. So let's actually tackle that. Don't know what happened there. So you match. Let's select the target surface. I don't know if maybe through the modeling it got adjusted a little bit. Uniform curvature. Unable to redefine tolerance. Okay, so I guess in this case then what? Okay, let's do this one more time. So this is my target, apple, and click on this edge. Okay, hold on one second. No, what's going on there right now? So this edge, okay. Unable to room more? No, this is, oh there, okay. Maybe uniform? Okay. What about curvature? Okay, well in this case then let's go with uniform, so the way how it moved the points. Okay, good. And finish, yeah. Let's rotate a little bit. There I have a gap, so I will do the same there. And let's go back to select those, match, and then select this edge. And this edge. What did it say about unable to reach refinement tolerance? Okay, so the amount of no chain target was kind of silly that I had all the time that chain thing turned on. There. Okay, how does curvature look? Big open gap, uniform. Okay, just out of curiosity. This is probably not going to work. Yeah, there's again this weird overshoot. So what I'm going to do in this case, I leave it, exit. So you see now the software needed more points to match. Similar problem, for example, when you work with alias and then it says the tangencies fail, etc. When we change the degree, etc. Same idea. And what we're going to do now is we create a sketch on this plane and do the following. One line here, another line, another line, and here another line. Escape. And yep, okay. Now I'm going to say split body. So this body is split by this tool. One more time. Wait, no. Don't use split body. Actually, we can use the trim now. So trim, that's the trim tool. And you see it cuts it away. One more time, trim tool. So I'm cutting away material. for the sake that I'm opening the space with the hope that actually I will be able to put my surfaces back in with a blend. So let's see how this works. And one more time. And tangent and tangent. Okay. Let's rotate and pay attention to the highlight, how it flows, and check this out. Okay. Oh, that's pretty nice. Now, technically speaking, those B-reps are able to be built out of curves. I just need to know how to build all these curves. To get to there is really tricky. This way now, actually, I know how to do it. And this maybe is kind of like my preferred workflow, to be honest. Really precise stuff, alias or NURBS. Other complicated organic parts I solve then through TS, and then again the tricky part with transitions I do then again with B-reps. Okay, so I think this is a pretty acceptable highlight. Let's see maybe how this one looks inside the render environment. So I don't really see those mesh lines on it. So yeah, this is quite pleasing. Okay, perfect. So let's go back to model. And then I could again close this area. And then, so let's do this maybe, nope, let's go this way, there, and middle mouse button and shift. Let's name this one, for example, this is my trim lines. Okay, then let's make a new sketch on this plane. Please include this point and this point. Oh, did I? Yes, I left sketch. Kind of silly. And then draw myself a line. And didn't I include those points? I thought so, I did. So let's do this again. Nope, wrong tool. I had the sketch hidden. That's the reason why I didn't see those lines. So here, go away. Because all I need is just those points. Let's delete this alignment, or not alignment, constraint, and then this point, modify point align U to U. Okay, this point align there to there. Stop sketch. Now we have this line, and go patch 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. By the way, where's this patch? Let's select this one, edit, and let's say, hey, make curvature. Check this one out. So that patch command in Fusion is pretty fantastic actually, because it's kind of like planar, but it also has the ability to make somewhat rounded parts. Of course, this is a line, so this is complete crap what I just did, so scratch that. But I just thought for sake of demonstration this will work well. So if you have like a circle and you need to close it, you don't get a perfect circular closure, but a roundish. Okay, and then like everything I did before, stitch then everything together. All my stitches are nice, and then I can give this a shell thickness. Actually, right now, let's press escape. Let's save. I'm getting excited because I'm getting ready to finish this one. So click you, maybe one, no, what I'm doing, 5 minus. Let's see if this works. Can we insert it inside? Worked. Okay, well, that's good. Minus 1.5 millimeters. Oh my god. Worked as well. No, I'm not sure. The software is still crunching. So what I'm trying to see is how far can I push the surface to the inside. If I can get it 2 millimeters inside, then that's terrific. If only I can get it 1 millimeter inside, then that's okay as well. Because then I would be able to use a direction and say both sides 1 millimeter, so I end up with 2 millimeter, just grew my part by a millimeter. And Fusion is still working, so I'm going to pause for a second. So Fusion crashed here, so that shelling command was a little bit too much. So I can go back, select this one. What did we say? See, we can go bow symmetrical. No, we can't. So let's go one side, but to the outside by 2. And of course that will work easy peasy. Besides, I haven't selected everything. Where's my body? There. Thicken 2. And there it is. Okay, and then I can continue, of course. So as the really last thing, I would like to show you one step I would maybe actually myself try out. Now, I mentioned before, all this stuff is just test modeling sometimes to solve a problem. I go back to Blender, and here's my original mesh, and there's also kind of like this alias export. So what I would like to do is try to see if not, I could simply here already pre-build myself something that will make life easier for Fusion. So I'm going to select those, what did I do? Remove double, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. E, extrude, push it out, okay. Let's do the same here. E and extrude it out. And there, let's go to there. I'm just building this one bigger than it needs to be. And also, actually, those creases I can remove. I don't need them. There, I only need the crease actually along those lines. Okay, so what I'm curious about right now is if I could not create something similar to what, I'm using a similar technique, for example, we used in rollers approach. So I'm going back to alias, and I'm going to select only those faces. I'm going to create myself a shell. Let's press spacebar. Yeah, so one boundary, that's obviously correct. So let's go on to a new layer, assign there. No, is that the mesh? Yeah, that's the stitched shell. This one I'm going to export active, and let's go maybe handle. This is going to make sense just in a second what I'm doing here. And then I'm going to select those two, copy and paste, make myself also a new layer, assign, and actually there, for example, let's make a really small blend. Okay. Select nothing, and then from here I just would like this rounding as a copy on this layer as well. So no, it's not there yet. Okay, let's try and take a look. Or did I put it maybe on this layer? No, where did I put it to? I thought I made a copy. Copy and paste, assign, there, there. Okay, and those three objects I'm going to export as well, and then those specifically are going to be as a reference. So which name did I use? So let's call this one maybe tip. Okay, let's go back. Spacebar, oops, not Apple spacebar, just spacebar. Import obj, and then bring in the handle, spacebar, import, and the tip. Okay, now this whole mesh I'm going to push onto layer 0. Remove. Okay. This looks nice and smooth. So what I'm going to do now actually is simply I try to build this one a little bit bigger. So for example here I move this one to there. Let's rotate this one. And then I will make Control R, a loop cut, move this one to here. And now those points here right now, let's move this one to there. And this one I move a little bit out there. Okay, so I select all those points. I'm going to the property panel here, go to vertex group and maybe click assign, press A, select, you see those are selected, and say maybe that's the right. Okay, what's this name? This one is called handle. Okay, I just noticed this point has to be moved out. And now I go and select this part, go to modifiers and say, where is it? There, shrink wrap. You onto handle, but only this. And you see what's happening. It's actually pushing that stuff onto that shell. So why did I do this? Because I'm curious if I now create another loop cut here, I basically have my, or do I not? Maybe let's see what happens if I move those. Maybe I have to move this one a little bit more to here. Let's see. I never actually tried it out this way, so I was just curious if this could work. Maybe I make another loop cut here instead. Select all, select this one, X, delete, select all those, here, remove, and now I select only the smaller part and assign. Okay, so everything from this point. Okay, good. So it works actually the way how it's supposed to be. So, and then I can start maybe moving these points a little bit. Let's see if maybe we can get a somewhat nicer result there. It looks kind of terrible. Negative. Yeah. Ooh. What's going on there? Okay, let's say go back, project onto the surface. See, I don't really like how this is jiggled. See, this is kind of like a really dirty approach. It's not really a good technology. Mathematically, it's totally not sound compared to like a nice NURB surface. Well, let's see, maybe if I can move those points a little bit. So now my big question is, can I maybe change something in a way that I get a better transition there? But I start getting a theory. Hold on. So there, there. Okay, move up and move up, down and down there. Then this one, a new left, assign another shrink wrap and handle and left. Okay. So first, what I can actually observe, even while the stuff is a little bit crappy, I see how this one bellies out. So there, for example, now I can push this one in. I can also see here maybe this whole transition should be more there. What happens if I remove this one? So I try to dense back or dense out my mesh again. So I have nice and simple low density meshes to work with, nothing too complex. This is terrible here right now. Okay, so didn't really work out the way how I thought actually this could work. But maybe this is actually a possible approach. So I made this a tiny bit bigger, as you can see. So this object I copy and move on the layer 10, so it's for the moment gone. I'm going to apply the subdivision. Okay. No, what did I do? Okay, let's go back there. Oh, never mind. Everything is still okay. Let's go to edit, right select. So see, those points are in the selection as well, and those I remove. Then they should not snap to that thing anymore, which tells me, you know, how it shoots over. So here, those I have to push this way, maybe a little bit less strong there and there. Okay, let's take a look at the other one. Select. So all those remove. There also I can see like how I have to move those points, so I get a continuous, or I later will get a continuous flow. So you see here I have to adjust their position a little bit. And okay, no, I'm going to do this. Apply and apply. So my modifiers got applied. So you see those vertices are really pushed and applied. They're now in that position. So now I can go back and do a little bit of last minute sculpting. Maybe push this one down a little bit. There and there. Let's maybe go to a side view. Maybe this a little bit. There, for example, those are way too high. Just paying attention to the way how that stuff flows. Okay. Sub D back. You, and you, and you. Crease. So you see now this is actually quite a denser mesh. If I have to sculpt this more, I'm going crazy because this is actually a pretty complex mesh. So here and there, actually, those two I simply can't select. I shouldn't have really needed to. It was kind of silly. So remove, should delete and assign. And then I go back after the subsurf. Please add me another shrink wrap handle. Let's see if much happens. So now you see I have a little bit more control over everything. And now I can go back and do a little bit of last minute sculpting. This is also, again, another good opportunity to show you Blender is awesome, sub-D modeling is awesome, but you really need to know what you're doing. Otherwise, you're going to make yourself life really miserable. So now this part gets tighter and then it gets bigger. Well, maybe I simply leave it at this. Okay. So now actually you see that's the whole point why I did this. I created myself a shell that is pretty close to the shell I later want to go to, the NURB surface. So let's make this one a 5 so it's incredibly dense, because I want to check one thing. Let's make a section view. Am I close or not? And look, I'm not. So let's do it. Then this way. Oops, nope, way too much. And yeah, what's the best way? Okay, yeah, I have to offset this a little bit. So I do it this way. This part I subdivide, and the subdivision in Blender is actually going to make everything shrink a little bit. You see I put the shrink wrap on top because, as you can see, it gets smaller. And now I simply tell it to push that stuff back. If it would just do what I ask it to do. Where's the stuff going to? 0.01. What the? Oh, maybe the values were a little bit too big. Okay, now this, for example, is close. Okay, good. So, because my T-spline object will later look really nice and soft, like in case I would turn on a subsurface in Blender with a really high value, which will crash Blender and slow it down, but T-spline, because it's using a different math idea, has no problem with it. It's like a very relaxed and dependable friend. Maybe here in this case, I do some last minute sculpting along this one, there. No, wait, actually, you as well. I do it with all those. Zup, zup, zup. SX0, and then I simply maybe go into this view and along this view rotate it. Maybe push it back a little bit. So I flatten that part somewhat. And then, of course, those crazy ones here also have to go back. Okay, no, this was all way too much. So, no, just undo it. Just leave it. It's only going to cause some too much problems. Maybe, yeah. The problem is those surfaces from Alias, I just go down and then my Blender stuff goes up. Anyway, this is going to take too long, so let's leave it. Click this one. I do not want the subsurface to be visible. This one I want to be visible. Let's press the spacebar, export obj. Let's say, for example, this is Y study revised. Apply modifier, and again I have my subsurface modifier deactivated, so I get a nice and low density mesh, but with the shrink wrap data applied to it. And then let's go to Fusion. Let's save. And okay, you saw everything here, so I'm simply going back. This one, suppress. No, wait, I can probably go back to there. Can't I simply suppress those? Suppress. There. Instead of deleting everything, I just, for the moment, just suppress the stuff. So I simply have my original part back. So you see at this point in time, I can try out my other thing. So I go and create a new form, import my mesh, which is also under insert. Let's go to Marvin's folder and there, open meters. Okay. Yikes. Okay, we have to change this one. Convert. Will take a moment. The stuff, delete. And maybe I want to still see this object so I can align them. Edit, I have to do some creasing again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sorry. And then let's select the whole object. Double click, move, and say point from there to there, there. Okay. Okay. So there we see already, this way, I created myself a nicer transition. And a little bit more control over everything. And then there I could say cut, 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 and then pump all that stuff together and basically repeat what I did here. But my T-spline object I created, I had a little bit more control this way, and I changed the densities a little bit. Okay, so again, all you need to do is basically do the same steps. For example, I did here. So unsuppress. Okay, in this case, no. Hey, all you, look at this. Bang, delete. Be gone. Nope. Yeah, you as well. Kaboom. And oh, I deleted the sketch. I do not know how I did that. Yeah. There. Still keep the sketch and then go to trim, tool, cut, tool, cut, tool, cut, and tool, cut. And make it tangent, and this profile, make it tangent. One more time. And the same tangent, and tangents. Ta-da! Okay, I mean, that would have been a secondary approach, but I feel like actually with this way I start understanding what I have to do, and this whole part got a little bit better in my opinion. Now keep in mind, this is just one way. Honestly, like the saying says, there are many ways to Rome. Some are more complicated, some are more efficient. This was driven also by my curiosity if this is actually going to work. So there's not really a right or wrong one. Of course, the wrong one is when the surface looks terrible or is too complex, which we don't necessarily have here right now. This is still not super ideal, but actually I think we can keep it at the level where it is. Okay, so this was really everything regarding this part.